Lack of clarity, lack of direction. Of all the people that I coach and support in the dental and medical space, this seems to be the biggest concern. I'm just not clear on what I want. How do I know how to trust my gut? Listening to my intuition. If that's something you've been struggling with as we're entering into this second month of 2024, then this, my friend, is exactly where you need to be. Pull up a cup of coffee or a nice warm cup of tea, sit back, and enjoy this episode of the Business of Happiness podcast. Hello, and welcome back to the Business of Happiness podcast, my friends. I'm Dr. Tarryn MacCarthy, and today is going to be a phenomenal day. There's so much excitement in the air when the new year starts, right? We get all excited about New Year's intentions and New Year's aspirations. It feels like an enormous opportunity, a whole year lying ahead of us. We're literally standing on the precipice of possibility. And as the weeks creep on, we start to get disillusioned. And we start to realize, wait a minute, maybe I didn't have great clarity around what it was I really wanted to do in 2024. We start doubting ourselves. Wait a minute, maybe I was creating intentions or aspirations based on what other people were telling me to do. But is that really what I want? It's right about this time of year when the fear of not knowing, when we get discouraged by not having great clarity on which direction we want to go in. I remember having this awareness for myself in practice many, many years ago. I had finally realized, wait a minute, I'm not happy. That's the first awareness, right? When you could finally admit that to yourself, whoa, I'm not happy. When you finally step outside of the drudgery of every day, kind of putting one foot in front of the other, and you wake up, maybe it's a moment when you have a conversation with a friend or something tragic happens in your life, or maybe someone in your world close to you has a diagnosis that really shakes things up and you realize, wait a minute, life is too short. I had a moment like this weekend. It wasn't a tragedy. My daughter is a senior in high school, and they've requested from us to pick out a baby photo of her. They're doing something at their school where when they come back from spring break, they're going to be their baby photos lined up in the hallways. So cute. And I don't know if they're going to do trying to figure out who's who. I don't know what it is. But this weekend, my husband and I sat down and we thought, okay, let's find a baby picture of Cass that we love, that we want to put up. And we started going through old photos. And it was really interesting seeing these little babies again. So now my daughter's 17, my son is 16, and looking at them when they were 3 and 4, 2 and 3, and remembering those beautiful souls, but recognizing that time has gone by so quickly. And Killian even at one point said to me, I was not present for them during that time. I wasn't present emotionally and mentally when they were that age. I remember them, but that time went by so quickly because I wasn't present. So that was one of those moments where we have clarity of, wait a minute. Something is off here. Either I'm out of alignment with what I want in my life, or I'm not happy. Something's off. And so that's the first awareness, right? And bravo if you've had that awareness. Maybe you had that awareness looking back over 2023. You realized, wait a minute, I am not happy in this body. I am not happy in this relationship. I'm not happy in this job. I'm not happy in this social circle. That's the first step. And I feel like that's when we start getting excited. Okay, damn it, something's got to change. And we almost need a little bit of anger in there, right? A little bit of, I'm going to do something about this. It requires us to be activated. It requires us to be a little bit mad. this has got to change. We got to get to a point where we realize I am no longer willing to accept this. I am no longer willing to tolerate it. Isn't it so interesting that we need that little bit of, I'm going to call it pain, when we realize, wait a minute, I got to wake up. I got to do something differently. And there's excitement behind that. There's energy behind it. And I think sometimes we hit the new year, 2024, January, with that energy of, damn it, I'm no longer going to settle for this anymore. I'm going to boom. And then as the weeks progress, we realize, wait a minute, I didn't have great clarity. I remember that when I was in my practice, my first practice, and I had my children, they were really little, and I was realizing that I was completely ignoring myself, my needs, my happiness, and I was literally putting one foot in front of the other. I knew, damn it, something has to change. And I felt like something big had to change. You ever have that feeling where you feel like, oh, this is going to be a big shift. I'm going to blow shit up. Excuse my language, but if I'm using that language to really identify, when you get to that place, you're like, oh my gosh, I am ready to make a big radical shift. Ha. And what happens often next is the fear of not having clarity of where that is. What does that even look like? I know something's got to change. I had the awareness, but man, now I need the clarity. And as we start going in the year, we realize if I don't have great clarity, then I'm just swimming around in indecision. If you're feeling this frustration over not having great clarity, if you're feeling this lack of direction, something's got to shift, but nothing shifts because there's not really certainty. I want you to just know that you're not alone, and it makes so much sense that you feel that way. Doesn't mean we have to stay there, but I just want to justify and validate why you feel that way. It makes so much sense in the healthcare professions, especially as doctors and dentists, because if we look back over our lives, you've been doing everything you need to based on what the next step needed to be. They told you take this test, you knew to take that test. Just tell me what to do to get to the next step. Whether it was medical or dental school, and then residency, and then buy a practice or go into an associateship, the steps were laid out for you, right? You knew you wanted to be a dentist, so here are the steps you take. Maybe you didn't even know you wanted to be a dentist. You just kind of fell in line with the steps that were needed to be taken because other people were telling you this is what needs to happen next. What's the next step? What's the next level of accomplishment? It makes so much sense that not knowing what to do next feels uncomfortable because you haven't done it yet. It's so interesting to me when we look at our colleagues who are in entrepreneurial ventures where they created their own business model or they created their own jobs outside of a clearly defined one in medicine and dentistry. These creative people in our world who are so comfortable with what not knowing. They're just kind of going with the flow. And in medicine and dentistry, we've become so successful by playing by the rules. It feels really uncomfortable to listen to ourselves. And what clarity requires is slowing down. That's it. Slowing down, finding space and time for quiet without the noise or the responsibilities or other people's inputs, taking time for yourself. And I don't mean a massage, although maybe that helps you get there. I mean sitting down with the intention of generous space to be alone with yourself, your feelings, and your dreams, to be fully present with you. And it's so hard to do. It's so hard to do, especially if you've been doing your whole life. Simply being without an intentional accomplishment is very uncomfortable. Why? Because doing, over functioning is what we do well. We've been doing it our whole lives. It's how you got to where you are. You are very good at working hard. You're very good at following the rules. You're very good at doing what people tell you to do and making a success out of it. Look for a moment at all you've already accomplished and how much you attribute to doing what people told you to do and following the rules. So, of course, it's going to be uncomfortable with sitting still with yourself and listening to your own intuition. Maybe you've identified with always being busy. Maybe that's who you are, who you think you are, the queen of multitasking, the queen of getting shit done. Maybe it's a part of your persona that you've just owned. She can get things done. I make things happen. I move the needle. Sound familiar? So if I'm telling you right now, sit down, do nothing, maybe journal, whew, that feels out of alignment with who you are, right? We tell ourselves this is who I am. And that is what clarity requires. Clarity of what matters to you and what's important to you can only be found when we block out all the other noise. When we stop over-functioning, when we stop overdoing, when we stop letting in other people's opinions and judgments and expectations come in. Clarity requires calm, not just in your actions, but in your body. So when we sit down in a space, let's say you've finally convinced yourself, okay, Tarryn, I get it. I need time and space. I'm going to block it out of my calendar. Thursday, 2 to 4 is my time. I'm not going to accomplish anything. I'm not trying to exercise for a goal. I'm only exercising if it helps me feel calm my body, but I'm not doing it to, break a new PR. But I've put that time aside. Now here I go. I'm going to sit in that space. And if in that space you sit down, like this happened to me, when I first sat down with myself, my mind started going a million miles an hour. And I immediately thought of all the tasks that needed to get done. Oh, well, I can't sit still right now. Let me just quickly throw the laundry in. I can't sit still right now. Let me just respond to the 3 emails of those referring dentists that are waiting for me. Hold on. Since I have this moment right now, let me just quickly check that the nanny has the kids for pickup, right? Our minds are wired for efficiency and accomplishment because you've been practicing it for decades. And where clarity over what you need, clarity over your dreams and your direction lives is nowhere in that realm. So what do? Number 1 is we calm our nervous systems down. That is such an important requirement. And by the way, I have a course on nervous system regulation for dentists, which is how to calm your body down. And it's a beautiful 4-week self-led audio course that you can listen to in the car on the way to work. And it has some meditations assigned to each lesson so you can start getting into the practice of meditation in a gentle way, beautifully curated specifically for dentists and doctors. And if this is something that you're interested in, I'm going to leave a link in the show notes for you. It's called Nervous System Regulation for Dentists. But I digress. The key component is calming your nervous system down. So what does that look like? Well, one way to do that is by breathing. And breath work works because our vagus nerve, directly connected to our parasympathetic nervous system. Okay, we know all this from dental school. But your vagus nerve also innervates your lungs. So the key here is we're asking our bodies to help us calm down. Our minds are going at a million miles an hour, right? We get to choose our thoughts, so we get to redirect. No, let's come back. But if your body is activated, you can't use those positive affirmations or those mindset techniques unless your body is calm. And of course, your body's going to be activated if you've never done this before. Our fear of the unknown. That's it. What's going to happen to me if I sit in one place for 2 hours with no accomplishments? I'm not answering any emails. I'm not, achieving my latest PR or getting a new win on the treadmill or with my weights. I'm not planning for next week or getting ahead on my emails, my waiting email list. What's going to happen? Immediately, our bodies go into fight or flight. And when you're in fight or flight, in a state of survival, you cannot achieve creativity or clarity. That's it. So let it be okay, guys. You've been so fearful that, oh my gosh, I don't have clarity on what I want to do in my relationship, in my marriage, in my job, in my personal development, in what I want out of life. I can't even think of what would make me happy. Oh my gosh, you're totally normal. There is nothing wrong with you. You are not broken. And there is a way to achieve that clarity, and it requires slowing down, calming your nervous system, and being present with yourself. That's the secret. That's the secret. That's the silver bullet. That's all it takes. All that fear of, what if I challenged what I'm doing right now? That's another fear. What if I sat down with clarity, found out that I'm in the wrong marriage? Just that fear alone will get your body to cut yourself off from clarity. Of course, we don't want to see what's so terrifying. What if I sat down with myself and I realized I'm in the wrong profession? Whoo! The fear of, have I spent all this money and time dedicated towards something that was not the right choice? Or the fear of, what if I made the right choice? I love what I do. I figure out, actually, I'm very happy in this beautiful, lucrative, connecting profession where I get to serve and help people every day. But I've done so sacrificing my time with my children, my parents, who now their lives, their days are numbered, my relationships. The fear of what might be discovered in those moments of clarity alone could hold us back from giving our bodies the safety we need to be present. So let me honor you. It makes so much sense that you don't have clarity. It makes so much sense. And the one way to find that clarity is to give yourself space and time. And step one is just making a commitment to it in the calendar. Making sure you have childcare. There are no patients you're going to see during that time. I promise you that your bottom line will not even notice. If you take 2 hours, I said 2 hours, out of your day on a weekday, when you have childcare, away from patient care, no one will notice. The end of the month, and you know this to be true, the end of the month, you're not even going to see a blip on the radar in your bank account or in the production for that month. However, creating that time and space for yourself is going to be enormous in terms of finding clarity for yourself of the direction you want to go, of what matters to you, of what your next steps need to be, of what 2024 really is asking of you, of what you need. And then giving yourself permission to calm your nervous system in those moments when you're feeling jacked up. Every time you're sitting down in those beautiful 2 hours in that space, I'm going to recommend you do things to make it feel really good. I love journals. I don't know how many of you are the same way, but I am such a Staples geek. I love new pens, new journals, the smell of a bookstore. Just, you know that feeling. Okay, so if any of you Post-it notes, anybody? So I love the idea of a beautiful new journal that has its only intention of finding clarity. And then I love a good pen. So making the space really enjoyable, the whole purpose for that is to calm and regulate your nervous system. When we elevate our emotions, our emotional state, to excitement, to enjoyment, to gratitude, now we help support our nervous system so that we don't go to that fight or flight space. There's deep scientific intention in all these steps, my friend. So get yourself a candle. Yeah, that feels really good. If you love it, get your favorite cup of tea. Create an environment that is soothing and, most importantly, safe. Creating safety for your body and for this practice of finding intention. And then just free write. What do I want in my life? And give yourself, and here's the critical component, permission to dream beyond the restrictions of your current reality. So every time you hear your mind say, oh, but that's not possible, you have 3 kids, let that go. This journaling exercise is purely fantasy, and it is such a critical component of finding clarity because it creates safety. The moment you allow yourself, you give yourself permission to dream, you start thinking outside the box. The moment we start limiting ourselves and constricting possibilities, we lose clarity. We lose the opportunity to think clearly because we're trying to fit ourselves into the parameters of what our mind is telling us what is. If this feels like mumbo jumbo, let me give you an example. If you're sitting down and you think, oh, I've always wanted to be a stand-up comedian. My kids tell me I have the greatest jokes, and every time people come over, I replay stories from residency, and I leave everybody just dying laughing. I've always wondered what it would feel like to actually stand up on stage and share some of this humor. And immediately your mind says, what are you talking about? You already are a dentist full-time. You have kids at home at night. There's not also time to now go and be a stand-up comedian. They have late hours into the night. What happens is immediately we restrict ourselves. And so our brain says no to that possibility and cuts off all other options. And right away, our clarity is stumped. You see what I'm saying? Giving yourself permission to dream with abandon and allow yourself to dream what you consider the impossible. That's how we start gaining clarity. And it doesn't happen in one session. This is a practice, and especially if you have been the good rule follower your whole life long, if you've been doing what everyone else told you to do and still do today, maybe it's what your patients dictate or your team or the insurance companies or your boss or your spouse or your mother, maybe you're still following the rules, then this is such a great practice for you to be building that muscle of finding clarity with what you feel, with your intuition, with your inner knowing. Imagine a world where you prioritize time for listening to your intuition on a weekly basis. Not to accomplish anything, not to achieve anything, not to get things done, but to work toward an understanding of what you want. Imagine if that's what you prioritized. And then you could get closer to clarity. See, what's really interesting is clarity is not a destination. Clarity is something we discover with a practice and an intention of listening to ourselves. I'm here for you. Maybe this episode is reaching you at just the right time. Maybe you're sitting there listening to this and realizing, oh my gosh, that's the one thing I've been looking for is clarity. This whole time I thought it was work-life balance, but I don't even know what that looks like because I do not have clarity. I'm here for you. Sometimes we need some support. Sometimes we just need another person to be that mirror for us, to ask us those questions, to support us in guiding us towards our own clarity. And that's what I do. So if this is reaching you at just that time, send me an email, Tarryn@drtarrynmaccarthy.com, or find me on the bizofhappiness.com, B-I-Z of happiness.com, and connect with me. Let's find a time to chat, totally free. No sales here, just helping you discover what is blocking you and what you need to do to find your own clarity. And remember, when you feel good, that's when your brain can open up to a space of safety and offer you the opportunity to see outside the box, to think outside the box, greater perspective. Because when you feel good, that's when you can make decisions to do good. Bye-bye. Thank you for listening to the Business of Happiness podcast. If this episode brought you new perspective and value, I invite you to subscribe so that you catch all upcoming episodes and leave us a review. And if you know of a friend or colleague who could benefit from this perspective, share this episode with them and empower their day. For more information about the Business of Happiness and the Radical Happiness for Practitioners course, find me on www.thebizofhappiness.com. See you there.